I fell in love with Game of Thrones at first sight. You know the reasons. Like you, I was seduced by the breadth and detail of its world, enamored by the nuanced characters and their moral complexity. Its commitment to bucking fantasy tropes enthralled me, and as a writer, it was like opening up a new door into a whole range of storytelling possibilities that I had never seen before. But the seams started to tear the moment the show ran out of books to adapt, and they burst wide open during the 7th season. Now, the production design, the CGI, the music, etc. are all impeccable, and the editing has never been more fun. But since the season finale, I've probably read more than 20 articles about the declining quality of the show's writing, and the problems listed were almost all the same. The rampant plot holes, the ridiculously accelerated pacing, the whiplash created by characters teleporting from one place on the map to another, and the obviously nonsensical plans that the characters come up with, or rather that the writers force them to come up with, just so we can squeeze a little more dragon-fueled spectacle into the mix. But those problems just scratch the surface. The two biggest issues as I see it are 1, character consistency, and 2, a lack of consequence. It's that characters like Littlefinger and Varys have become shells of their former selves. Their roles in the story diminished, slaves to a plot that they are not in control of. How characters like Tyrion, Sansa, and others are forced to act in ways that contradict who they are in order to manufacture temporary conflict. It's that characters like Jaime, Tormund, and especially Jon Snow were written into impossible situations, but managed to escape scot-free without growing or changing, and how much of a betrayal that is to the spirit of the story, where mistakes always had a cost. Game of Thrones felt like a different show this year, but, you know, I don't want to beat up on the show too much. My first videos on this channel were a series outlining my disappointments with the Hobbit trilogy. And while I cringe to look back at the tone of those videos, I can't deny that there was a cathartic joy in articulating that feeling of outrage. But there's no anger here to feel cathartic about, no passion for me to vent, only the pain of falling out of love with a story. And that's different from hating it. I think we've all felt that way before when it comes to TV shows. In fact, I can probably name the number of shows that got stronger all the way to the series finale on one finger, because the pressures of creating a serialized story on a schedule almost invariably lead to compromise. The extended time that a TV series provides means many shows are great at creating compelling worlds and characters, but those same conditions make it difficult to deliver a satisfying conclusion. Logic is usually the first victim, and convenience becomes commonplace. In my previous video on Game of Thrones, I praised both the show and the books for being amazing at cultivating empathy for these characters, and making us emotionally invested in what happens to them. And in watching a show go awry, it makes me appreciate just how powerful a force empathy is, that we are willing to overlook narrative missteps so long as we get to spend a little more time with the characters that we love. Game of Thrones has made writing mistakes before, but they always felt isolated. If the Dorne plot, for instance, was bad, that was okay. There were 50 others to enjoy. It was like one chamber of the Titanic had filled up with water. It wasn't enough to sink the ship. But then...
So bring the dead to her. You can't lead a raid beyond the wall.
Why is he still here?
Run back to Eastwatch. Get a raven to Daenerys.
How do you answer these charges? Lord Baelish.
Well, well, if it isn't our old friend,
Lord Baelish.
The problems are widespread now, and they're eroding the empathy we had for these characters. It's that for so long we've been watching and analyzing the show because it promised to be something truly different, that at the end of the road there would be some sort of transcendent experience that would give us the only thing we ever look for in stories: meaning. Game of Thrones promised to be meaningful, and for many seasons and books, it was. It showed us a side of humanity, a side of ourselves that was scary. It called into question our inclinations to do good, and how they might be tied up with our own ego. It showed us at our most sinister, and the shocking reality that sinister might be a synonym of wise. But all of that has been rolled back to the comfortable conventions of fantasy, of good triumphing and evil being vanquished, of invincible heroes doing this. something has been lost along the way. It all feels routine now, too familiar to be meaningful. And it makes me realize that the pain of falling out of love with a show isn't that you start to hate it. It's that you become ambivalent about it. It's the awareness that you're just not feeling as excited or scared or joyful as the story wants you to be. The knowledge that scenes like this would have you cheering under different circumstances. And yet we go on watching out of some sense of obligation, bonded to it by the empathy it hooked us with in the beginning, blinding ourselves to the faults along the way because we're going somewhere, right? There has to be some more meaning left, right? It's like opening up the Ark of the Covenant and finding nothing but sand. But well, perhaps this is all too much to ask of a story. Stories, after all, are a strange alchemy, and they are almost impossible to maintain. For one to go on this long, this well, is a minor miracle. So maybe we shouldn't look to the show or the books for answers. The show is, quite literally, fan fiction, but it never felt so much like fan fiction than it did this season. So why not look to our own imaginations for the meaning we crave, to our own fictions? We treat television, film, and literature like passive mediums, but they don't have to be. When we play video games, we play an active role in creating our own narratives. That can be true of other mediums as well. Storytelling was interactive long before our modern notion that the author has some sort of final say, that there is a definitive text. When you pick up a copy of the Iliad or the Odyssey, it may say by Homer, but those stories had generations of authors. They were part of an oral tradition for hundreds of years before being set down on paper, each one revising and updating the story. So if you feel like I have felt let down by Game of Thrones or The Hobbit or The Last Airbender or anything else, then write your own way out of that feeling. Replace your anger and disappointment with self-reflection. Part of becoming a better writer, or indeed a better person, is becoming a more contemplative reader. Because when I think for a moment about how I wish those stories had gone, all of my disagreements evaporate. I can return to them like a childhood home, like a dream, and reaffirm that the joy of loving stories and the most constant source of meaning isn't just in experiencing them, but thinking about them. I was originally going to publish this video as a blog post, and if I did, it would have been really easy with Squarespace. Squarespace is a great way to build a professional website with ease, and really everyone should have their own website, especially if you're a writer. So if you don't know anything about coding and need a website, then I highly recommend that you start your free trial today at squarespace.com and go to squarespace.com/justwrite to get 10% off your first purchase. Using that link helps support the channel, so I really appreciate the help, and if you want to support the channel directly, you can do so by pitching in at patreon.com/justwrite. Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video, and also if you're wondering, what's this blog you mentioned, Sage? Yes, I have a website, and I'll be posting some extra content there in addition to the video essays I post here. So take a read. Thanks for watching, everyone. All of the links are in the description below, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Keep writing, everyone.